So let's see now. We go from supination to pronation. There is a chart on page 151 that I prepared in the book. You might want to eventually read this, but overall, as I already specified in the previous lesson, it was supposed to be this one. You can read from page 140 to page 151 to 151 about the arm. There are also other pages you can read about details on how to draw the arm, and they're going to be on page 168. Sorry for the flashing, but 168, 169, up to all the way up to 171. Okay, so let's go back now to this sequence. Okay, so let's draw first a skeleton, schematic skeleton. Then we build the bones around it. The muscles around it. So we start with the head of the humerus, the shaft of the humerus, the diaphysis, the distal extremity of the humerus that articulates with the forearm. So in continuation with the shaft of the humerus, we see here the ulna at an angle, right, compared to the axis of the humerus. And next to it, laterally, so this is lateral, this is medial, we have the radius, right, parallel to that. With the hand in supination, so check if this is correct. Yep, see, that's slightly shorter. In supination, the bones of the forearm are going to be parallel, right? So that's the palmar view, right? So what happened if I put the muscles in here? Let's quickly draw the volumes of the upper arm here. I'm gonna draw it first quickly, lightly, like just barely visible. I could keep it lighter. In fact, when I draw, usually I draw marks that are just, let me show you, just like this, right? Just barely visible. So don't, when you draw, this is a general way of approaching drawing a figure or anything else by that matter. You want to mark your lines very, very weakly and very, very thin. If because they are questionable, you could change them, right? So if you have the right mark, then you go over it and you modify it as you need to, and you create a more specific mark, a more specific line, right? Makes sense? So learn to differentiate the marks, making them very light in the beginning when you kind of try to figure out the proportion, and then when you have established that you have the right mark, then refine it. So in here we have the upper arm, we have in here the forearm. We draw again that at first conical cylindrical form. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger, and now we see what happened as we put in here, we refine it. So maybe you change color just to differentiate the different type of mark. Now in this mark in here, I'm going to be more organic. This is very schematic. The next one is going to be very organic, right? So in here I have the deltoid going more or less halfway down the length of the upper arm, right? Going over here, past over the coracoid, covering the coracoid process, and the bicep, etc. But I don't want to concentrate so much on the upper arm, but more on this, the pectoralis, on the forearm. So in this case, we have seen that the brachioradialis, we start from the lower third here, more or less, create a volume here on the lateral part of the forearm that is higher than the volume that we'll be creating on the medial part, okay? So this volume here will go down all the way to the end of the radius. So here and here, I have the extremities of, actually let me draw it a little bit more clearly with blue here and here. These two dots are the extremities, the distal portion of radius and of ulna, right? So here, this bump in here that I have here, and this bump, this is the ulna, right? This bump in here is the ulna, and this bump in here is the radius. So in here, I'm going to have the radius, right? So this muscle in here will end up at the radius, right? This muscle in here instead will not end up at the ulna, but will end up here in the middle of the forearm here in the tendon. So this volume in here will start like this and end up here. On this side here, I have the volume of the ulna, right? So you see how now with supination, the two bones of the forearm are parallel. Here I have now the volume of the brachioradialis, and here I have the volume of the flexor, as we have seen before. So we can color them two different colors, right? Let's say red for the brachioradialis, right? So brachioradialis, that ends up at the radius with the tendon. This is all tendon, right? And this volume in here instead, which we can color, let's say blue, is the volume of the flexors, but not the flexor of the forearm like the brachioradialis, but the flexors of the carpus and the palmaris longus. The flexor of the hand, basically, because the flexor of the fingers, the flexor of the fingers are deeper. They're below here. I don't see them. Yeah, they just see down. You see them a little bit moving, a little bit the tendon, but they're deeper under this layer of this muscle in here of the carpus, the flexor of the carpus. So this is now what I have. These two main volume. One, we've seen this already with the previous video, right? They're going to go down to the carpus, and this is all tendinous, right? So that's the hand. Okay. So now let's see what happens if we put the arm in halfway between supination and pronation. So now I have the bone in here again, right here, coming down like this. So I didn't put this detail of the bone in the book, so you know I had to give you something new, guys, right? You pay good money for this, right? So here we go. Now this is the humerus, and this is the distal extremity of the humerus. Now the ulna is going to be always like that, right? More or less. That's fixed. See how fixed this is, right? So this is how fixed this is, right? This is the ulna. Look what it does. This it's like a mechanical. You can like a ratchet tool. See that? It doesn't do anything else other than flexion and extension. So this angle, see this angle in here, it's always going to remain the same. It's not going to move much this way, right? But the radius, we have seen how the radius instead can rotate because its joint can rotate around the forearm, around the ulna, sorry, that's why we call it radius now, radiates around the ulna because the joint is different, right? So what happens if we do this? Now we have the ulna. I put it down the same way I put it here, always, right? But now the radius will start from here and rotates this way, right? And goes here now. Now this time, the ulna and radius are overlapping, all right? Here. So my hand now is going to be positioned like this. So let's see what happens if we, right here, if we, when we put the muscles over here, right? So start again with the cylindrical shape, very lightly drawing, right? Again, we don't draw, you don't want to draw everything the same way. You're going to use different approaches to drawing depending on what it is that you're trying to do. If in this case I try to take the measurement, it's going to be just about the measurement. It's not going to be about the beautiful mark, the beautiful sign that I'm going to see at the end. I'm not going to see any of this at the end when I'm done, because it's going to be covered by other marks. So now here I have the volume of the deltoid, the volume of the upper arm, the volume of the forearm, and the 2x4 that now is going to be seen in this thinner side, no? And here I'm going to have my hand like this, coming down like this, okay? So let's block in the volumes, right? So the volume this time are going to be still the deltoid, right? Over here, like this. Deltoid going over the coracoid process. Pectoralis eventually, down like that. We'll leave the pectoralis alone now. Deltoid over the pectoralis, pectoralis over the bicep. The bicep is the one that is covered by all this muscle. In here, I'm going to have a little bit of the tricep visible, right? So the brachialis actually, and then the tricep here visible. So now here I have this form in here, this volume in here that goes to the end of the radius will still go to the end of the radius. So we will do this right here. So from here I have to go here now, right? So I want to create a little bit of the volume, right, of this muscle in here, and now the muscle will go across, diagonally across the width of the forearm. See that? Muscle and tendon. So let's color it like we did before. So we maintain the color coding, right? Now it's going across, but something new happens now, and something new is that now I see all three muscle groups, because now as this moves across like this here, guess what? I'm going to have the extensors. These muscles in here are going to the top of the hand. So these are going to be the extensors here, and let's color them orange. Okay. And here I'm going to add the flexors. Makes sense? So in this case, I see all three groups of muscles going down like this, etc. So now on this side in here, I see the